I would like to talk with you today about why scrapbooking is important when it comes to preserving memories. There is hardly anything more precious in life than our memories. They move us toward our future while linking us to our past. Preserving memories has been something mankind has always sought to do, whether it was putting art and important documents in museums, cherishing heirlooms for future generations, or keeping a hope chest filled with old photographs and love letters. People have been involved in methods of preservation throughout time. We all have a sense of need to preserve where we come from so we can take a glimpse back into that time period and learn from it. Hope chests with old letters and newspaper clippings are no longer common, but instead a new wave of memory keepers have arrived on the scene and with them have brought a new and interesting form of preserving the past. Let me share with you what I found when researching the history and purpose of scrapbooks, when the term scrapbooking actually began. The art of scrapbooking has been around a lot longer than you think. According to Audrey Okino, author of The History of Scrapbooking, said that back in the 15th century they had scrapbooks which were known as commonplace books. The books were used to record information such as weights, poems, medical formulas, and prayers. These books were also used by students to record information they have learned. As time evolved, these commonplace books began to hold newspaper clippings, articles, recipes, and illustrations. They were used as a way to share information. Somewhere during the Victorian period, the scrapbook as we know it went under several titles, including that of friendship albums, memory books, and visitor albums. Megan Rose also wrote an article on the history of scrapbooking, which mentioned that Queen Victoria actually had a scrapbook that she proudly displayed in the royal palace. As time went on, scrapbooking took on a new popularity when a series of books called the Scrapbook was issued in 1825 that included ideas on how to fill a blank book with pictures and clippings. In 1826, John Poole published a book about scrapbooking. It contained a collection of poems and engravings and explained how one could collect and rearrange scraps. These scraps were printed pieces of paper with ornate designs. The first scrapbooks using these tips were created to display mementos such as pressed flowers, paper pieces, feathers, and any other bits and pieces of memories. In 1832, Fisher's Drawing Room Scrapbook was published to encourage the art of scrapbooking. These were a series of books which became known as coffee table books and were kept on display in the home. They were the center of social exchange and discussion during the mid-18th century. These books were full of memories and family stories which have become a part of their family's heritage. During my research, I found that Thomas Jefferson was among the first famous Americans who kept leather-bound books which he filled with many types of memorabilia, including those from his presidency. Mark Twain was also another American who kept scrapbooks. The website Everything About Scrapbooking said Twain devoted his Sundays to the hobby and then sold his books through Montgomery Ward. In 1872, he invented the adhesive scrapbook that contained pre-pasted pages. This was his most popular book in which he netted $50,000. Perhaps he scrapbooked that memory too. The popularity of the early scrapbooks no doubt influenced the interest and the growth of the hobby, along with the how-to books on the subject. While this all stirred interest for the hobby, it wasn't until photography was born and became common that scrapbooking took a new turn. The Kodak camera and roll film was introduced in 1888 and changed the face of photography and scrapbooking forever. Now memories could be recorded with a photograph. Scrapbooking continued to be a popular hobby that preserved memories and recorded genealogy until some things in the world began to change. The popularity of scrapbooking began to fade in the early 1900s when the recession following World War I hit home. The recession caused many scrapbook-related businesses to close down, and around 1940, the mass production of photo albums also caused a plunge in scrapbooking popularity. Scrapbooking took a backseat to other more popular hobbies and survived mostly in upper-class society. It not only survived, but took a new turn in the latter part of the 20th century. 1980 marked a turning point for modern-day scrapbooking. According to the article by Lee Slatton, A Brief History of Scrapbooking, she told about Marlena Christensen, who scrapbooked 50 family albums that she proudly displayed at the 1980 World Conference of Records in Utah. This has been heralded as the beginning of modern-day scrapbooking. The Christensen family, seeing what a stir that the albums caused, soon capitalized on this by writing the first modern-day scrapbooking book called Keeping Memories Alive. In 1981, they also opened the first scrapbooking retail store in Utah. Soon, scrapbooking idea publications in the form of books, articles, and magazines exploded on the market and rocked the scrapbooking world. By the mid-1990s, scrapbooking picked up speed and becoming one of the fastest growing hobbies in America. Then along came the internet, which revolutionized the scrapbooking world by spreading the scrapbooking bug to other parts of the world, reaching scrapbookers worldwide. Once the average family could afford a personal computer and internet connection, millions of scrappers could connect on a daily basis with other scrappers in the nation and around the world to share ideas, tips, articles, and photos. The thousands of scrapbookers on the internet have allowed scrappers to purchase paper, embellishments, and accents with a click of the mouse, which are then sent directly to their home. The latest major divergence from the term we now use as traditional scrapbooking, has been the introduction of digital or computer scrapbooking, which came about in the late 1990s. These are now available in many programs that are designed for their use. Digital scrapbooking is perfect for the busy scrapper who doesn't have time to scrap the photos and memorabilia in the traditional way. All this has helped scrapbooking grow and flourish into a multi-billion-dollar industry. The scrapbooking industry doubled in size between 2001 and 2004 to $2.5 billion, with over 1,600 companies creating scrapbooking products by 2003. Today, the industry continues to grow. Even as we speak, millions of individuals around the world are working on scrapbooking projects. Let me share with you some projects I have completed. I have completed 2 heritage albums that covered 5 generations of my mother's side of the family. These albums are a wonderful way to preserve old family photographs, along with the genealogy, personal facts, and other important information for future generations. In addition to sharing memories, scrapbooking provides many outlets for the hobbyist. Scrapbooking has become also a social outlet, and it is used not only for connecting scrappers everywhere, but also for a fundraising event to help worthy causes. I've had the pleasure of hosting several scrapbooking socials in my home and at my church. There are many social opportunities for the scrapper nowadays. There are scrapbooking conventions, retreats, and even cruises, all devoted to scrapbooking. Now let's take a look at some projects you can accomplish even if you're limited on time. I know better than anyone that creating entire albums can be overwhelming and time-consuming. If you're new to scrapbooking world or just thinking about getting started, my advice is to start out simple. Frames are an easy way to preserve a photograph and still have the flair of scrapbooking project by adding printed paper and embellishments. You could do several sizes to make a grouping, or just to take one special photograph and enhance it. Now that you understand the history of how and why scrapbooking began, maybe now you can appreciate it even if you choose not to do it. Scrapbooking is more than just a hobby and goes way beyond just sharing some family photos, but instead it is a wonderful way to preserve the past for our future. It is a way for us to put our stamp on the world and to leave a legacy of love for the ones we may never meet. We scrappers take on the responsibility of teaching our children and the future generations that each person's journey is special and deserves to be documented. Thank you. Yay!